Ladies and gentlemen, may I have your attention, please? Detour proudly presents you a winning combination, the wonderful Portugal. Adventure country tracks, Trans-Euro Trail, the little but great CRF300L, and to top this hand, here comes the Joker, Offroad-Offcourse, represented by Diogo Guerra. A wonderful adventure awaits you, trust me.
So here I was, starting on my 6-day adventure trip in Portugal back in mid-April 2024. Riding off-road in Portugal had been on my wish list for some time, and I have to tell you right now, if you are considering doing something similar and you have the opportunity, just freaking go for it. It is just such a great experience. Portugal and Diogo with his Offroad-Offcourse enterprise suited me just great, and I cannot do anything but give my absolute best recommendations for his services. My initial plan was to join in on one of Diogo's group tours. According to his webpage, he had available seats, so I signed up, booked a week's vacation, flight tickets, and a hotel for the first night. It turned out Diogo had been out riding on a tour, and his webpage was not updated at the time I booked my seat. The 6-day Northern Odyssey tour I had booked was already full. However, Diogo had an extra Honda CRF300L for rental, so I held on to these days and started looking at routes I could ride. Both the Portugal Adventure Country Tracks, ACT, and the Trans-Euro Trail, TET, were being looked into. The plan was to get onto and follow the ACT going north, and then follow the TET going back south. I had a bit of correspondence with Diogo to get his evaluation of my route ideas, and then he suggested, why don't you follow my Northern Odyssey tour route? His route was at times following the ACT and other places, the TET routes. In addition, he had added some preferred sections of his own besides the ACT and TET. I thought this was a good idea and bought a GPX file from him with his route. So his group would then follow the same route on the same days as me. I had contact with Diogo and his group throughout the tour, and on some of the days I rode along with them at times and also shared some lunches and dinners with them. I started the day a little earlier than the group, rigged my bike, and took off following the GPX track. For navigation, I used the Guru Maps app on my iPhone, mounted using the quad lock system. All of Diogo's bikes have a USB power outlet, so my phone was fully charged at all times. For luggage, Diogo provided side bags for the bike and a tool set. I brought along a tank bag, a small rear bag, and a 30-liter backpack from Kriega with a 3-liter water bladder. With the temperatures in the coming days, that water bladder certainly served its purpose. As you may know, it doesn't take much off-road riding before your body gets rid of quite a bit of fluid, especially for well-aged, not-so-fit men like myself. Anyway, as you can see, it did not take long until Diogo's track put me onto gravel roads. This was still within the city of Santarém, where I started, using some back roads to get to the bridge that crosses the river Tagus. I guess I was taken a bit by surprise that the roads the track led me to follow were of this standard, even within the city limits. You may have noticed that I'm checking the map quite often, just to ensure that I was actually on the correct road. But I'd say that's a benefit of following a route suggested by people with local insight. They know exactly where the interesting roads can be found. One thing about Portugal that can be mentioned, you will encounter quite a few dogs along the roads. I did not meet any that actually went for me, but some of them could make quite a lot of noise, and I will admit I jumped a few times when I came around corners and was met by loud and apparently aggressive barking. But, as mentioned, not a problem. It has obviously been a bit tight for some vehicles here, but I guess with a bit of speed they managed to get through. Finally, at the bridge crossing the River Tagus, or Rio Tejo in Portuguese, next up is finding a gas station, top up the tank, and then I'll hit the gravel roads away from the city. See you there. Okay, full tank and the off-road adventure can start. In this first part of the route, the gravel roads were pretty organized, if I can use that word. A bit of effort and maintenance had obviously been put into them, and they were kind of rally roads, as Diogo called them. A nice start to the trip. It didn't take long until I realized that gravel roads were crisscrossing in all directions here. Without a guide, a good GPX track to follow is absolutely key in this area. It must be mentioned, although this was in the middle of April, the high temperatures I had on my trip, up towards 30 degrees Celsius, were due to a heat wave at the time. As you can see here, it had been quite wet not that long ago. I had waterproof gear with me, and even if it was not raining, wearing it could be a good choice on the days I spent in the highest parts of Portugal, up to 2,000 meters above sea level at times, where temperatures can be quite low under normal weather conditions. But hey, even at those heights, we had nice temperatures on this trip. No complaints from me. Riding solo versus in a group on a trip like this has its benefits and drawbacks. When being part of a group led by a guide in an area with roads all over the place, like here, quite some time will be saved not having to look at the phone trying to find the correct road. Instead, you can focus more on the surroundings and your riding. However, I must admit that the freedom riding solo gives me is really what I prefer. I can ride at a pace that suits me and my skills, stop whenever I want, and keep going for as long as I feel up to it. Then you also have the safety aspect of riding solo versus in a group. Of course, you have a kind of safety net around you in a group in case something should happen. When riding solo, I always have that in mind. I really do not want to end up in a bad situation, especially in areas with poor mobile phone coverage. On the other hand, when riding in a group with riders who have a different skill set, it may actually be easier to end up in a bad situation, as you might feel pressured to push yourself, riding faster or tackling more technical terrain than you're really ready for. Since I do most of my riding solo, and sometimes in areas with poor cell phone coverage, I've invested in a Garmin InReach Mini 2 satellite communicator, just in case. It also comes in handy for sending the missus a quick text to let her know that all is okay. I struggled a bit to make the map and the terrain match in this area. Some of these tracks probably stemmed from the machines that had taken down the forest and weren't visible on the map. As I had zoomed in quite a bit on the map, I managed to miss a left turn just after this, with the result that quite a bit of a challenge was thrown at me, a fairly steep and washed out hill climb. At first, I assumed I was still on the track and that the difficulty level would be manageable for most riders, including me, so I continued. By the time I realized that this hill climb was really pushing my limits, I figured it would be safer to just continue rather than stopping and trying to turn around. I managed to get to the top, so all was well, and, it feels kind of like a victory when you push your limits and succeed. Yeah, so this is where I should have turned left. I misread the map a bit and thought I should drive a bit farther straight before turning. I seem to remember that I was a bit puzzled that there was no left turn here, but I thought it looked okay, so I continued ahead. At first I thought, what a great road, but I remember that I eventually changed to thinking, is this the kind of technical level I can expect these days in Portugal? And I hadn't even been riding for more than half an hour from Santarém yet. I know the GoPro tends to make hills look less steep when riding up, but it will show a bit better when looking down the hill. The CRF300L is actually a great bike for these kinds of roads. I have a CRF250L myself, and the way it just chugs up hills has amazed me several times. For most riders, it's not the bike that sets the limit, it's the rider's skills, and perhaps even more importantly, their mindset that reach the edge long before the bike does. I don't think I would have considered riding down that hill, but that wasn't even necessary to consider, as there were roads all over the place here. The route continued eastwards until the outskirts of Ponta da Sor, then more or less straight north for a while, and then veered a bit west to end the day in Vila de Rei, the geodesic center of Portugal, at an altitude of approximately 600 meters above sea level. I'll let you enjoy some sections in peace without too much chit-chat now. the landscape kind of opened up a bit, and I thought this could be a good spot to put up my drone for some aerial shots. The temperature was already quite high, so taking a break in a bit of shade along the road was definitely welcome. This was an area I really appreciated. Nice roads, a bit up and down, and enough curves to wonder what's around the next one. Simply put, life was good. Some gates had to be opened and closed to keep the livestock in place, but there weren't too many of them, really. Just a nice stop now and then to stretch the legs a bit.
Are you going how? Go for it. No hesitation.
Dark. Once you let the light in, you won't see the beautiful stars shining down from afar. No, I ain't afraid of the dark. I don't mind the rain. Bring your life back. We can breathe again when dealing with the pain. No, I don't mind the rain. Ooh, that's the way it goes. Life will teach you what you need to know. And ooh, like a river flows, life will take you where you need to go. So much easier to see who I am and who I wanna be. No, getting old don't bother me. Truth can be a bitter pill, but it'll do you right and set you free the way a lie never will. Like climbing up the steepest hill, but truth can be a bitter pill. Life will teach you what you need to know. And ooh, That's the way it goes. Life will teach you what you need to know. Ooh, like a river flows, life will take you where you need to go. That's the way it goes. Life will teach you what you need to know. And like a river flows, life will take you where you need to go.
Diogo and his group eventually caught up with me as I was taking some pictures and filming an amazing field of flowers. I waited a bit after they drove off before I continued, as the roads were now quite dry, leaving quite a bit of dust in the wake of a group of riders. They'd had a bit of fun in the curves, obviously. Another benefit of riding in a group with comms, knowing that there are no oncoming vehicles around the corners. I believe the trees you see on my right are eucalyptus trees. According to ChatGPT, eucalyptus trees are widely planted in Portugal. They're primarily used for paper and pulp production, particularly for making high-quality white paper. However, there are also some controversies related to eucalyptus trees in Portugal. Since they're non-native, they can negatively affect biodiversity. In addition, they're highly flammable, contributing to the intensity of wildfires. And their water consumption is very high, which can impact local ecosystems. Portugal has actually implemented some restrictions on new eucalyptus plantations, promoting a shift toward more sustainable forestry. Cruising along these excellent gravel roads, taking in all the new sights and sounds was simply amazing. It does wonders for my stress levels. If this kind of riding is your thing too, I honestly can't recommend a trip to Portugal enough. The group had taken their time as well. They had stopped here for a little video shoot at one of the few water crossings on the route. I maintained a bit of distance to the group, first and foremost to avoid interfering with their ride, letting Diogo give his full attention to his group, and also to let the dust settle a bit. Another benefit of riding solo on dry gravel roads, I would say. I was invited to join the group for lunch. Diogo had given me the location of the restaurant. He proudly presents Portuguese cuisine during his group rides, and it's very easy to understand why. A nice lunch and a good break later. And once again, I set off a little ahead of the group, this time with a pair of lighter gloves, as the temperature was now around 25 to 26 degrees Celsius.
Sorry, English?
English. Sorry, but it's Portuguese.
Yes, yes.
I'm
English.
renting. Okay.
Yeah.
It's very warm, no? Warm.
Yeah, but as long as you ride, it's fine.
Okay, it's fine.
So don't stop.
Okay.
Don't stop.
Yeah, keeping the vents open and the bike moving made all the difference in this warm weather. But hey, that's why I was here in the first place, right? Escaping the cold and rain in Norway in exchange for this was just perfect. Just double checking that the camera is actually recording. I didn't want to take the chance of missing out on anything. It didn't take long before the cheerful group caught up with me again. Diogo had taken the lead with two of the riders who wanted to ride a little faster than the rest. I stopped just a little so as not to split up the group. The surface was getting a bit looser, and there were some signs of ruts, or rather slightly deeper wheel tracks, developing here. One of the guys had an unfortunate experience when steering out of the wheel tracks. Luckily, there was no injury, but an episode like that definitely affects your mindset going forward. I was trying to signal to the rest of the group that we had come to a stop here, as we didn't yet know whether there were any injuries.
Are you good?
Keep backing it up. Keep going, keep going. There you go. First round of beers are on you. Okay. I'm the first one. I will buy the beer.
Sure. Put donuts on for you.
You want to rest for a minute? No, I'm good now. Let your adrenaline come back down.
But the rider was okay, and we were able to carry on. Diogo has GPS trackers on all his bikes, and he had noticed that we had stopped, so he was already on his way back to check how we were doing. I took the opportunity to relieve myself of some fluid while giving them a bit of a head start. Another benefit of riding solo, you can take breaks whenever you want, no explanations needed. After a while, I started hearing a regular sound that wasn't supposed to be there, so I stopped to check if anything had come loose. I couldn't find anything that would explain the sound at the time, but later concluded that the chain was a bit worn and a bit of lube took care of the noise. Yeah, you can hear the sound pretty clearly here. Anyway, great roads, great weather. Even with the slight worry about the unknown cause of the noise, I was still fully enjoying the adventure. I caught up with the group again. The same rider had had another unfortunate incident. Luckily, once again, there were no injuries.
They're taking pictures there in the river.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Preparing for another water crossing. This one's slightly bigger than the previous one.
Get the camera.
He crashed again.
Sorry?
He crashed again. He crashed again. But this one, it was a worse crash. But I got it on camera.
Oh, he crashed again?
Yeah.
Okay, okay.
He's okay.
Was it bad or?
It was worse than the last one. He went into the river almost.
Ooh. Did he just go steep or?
here, so if you want to stay, stay. If you want to go, go.
I think I'll just.
Yeah, we're gonna have like a 10-minute break.
Yeah.
Catch you soon.
Okay. Hey, I have a complaint.
Complain?
Yes, my feet are wet.
The what?
My feet are wet.
I'm very sorry. I'll give you your money back.
Never got my money back though. What a crook.
Complaint box is in Santarém. Complaint box is in Santarém. The guys that we are going to stop in 5 or 7 kilometers when we cross the river. This hill, it's not hard, but it's long and steep, so keep some speed. You need momentum, okay? Want to go first?
Sure.
Yeah, why not? Again, the GoPro doesn't do the incline justice. There were some ruts, not too steep overall, but in the steepest part, it might have been a bit of a challenge to get going again if I had come to a stop. Good fun though, these hill climbs. It's definitely a bit of a workout, especially in temperatures like we had here. Again, very nice to have an accurate GPX track to follow. We then arrived at the dam that took us across the river that divides Portugal in two parts, Rio Tejo, or the River Tagus, and had a good break in the shade we found there. On the north side of the river, it was clear that we were starting to climb further into the higher parts of Portugal. Another break to fill up the bike, have an ice cream, and grab some more water. And off I went again, climbing higher and higher. The gravel roads gradually became a bit more interesting overall, I would say.
Already packing, come with me. I'm not really asking. We'll get away to a place where we don't know. About to see the world in action, what we can be, life with no distractions. We'll get away, this is what we waited for. Take my hand, we'll make it somehow. We can't miss out. I'm done living life with the lights out, die with my own doubts. Be free with me. Let's go, let's be free with me. Not looking back, eyes on the freeway, Bonnie and Clyde, a classic cliche. We're on the run, this is what we waited for. Take my hand, we'll make it somehow. We can't miss out. I'm done living life with the lights out, die with my own doubts. Be free.
I really love these forest roads, just cruising along with plenty of shade from the sun, kind of rugged terrain, and the occasional nice view. Just my kind of relaxing ride. I still regret not taking the time to put up the drone at this spot. There were some abandoned old stone buildings here, a truly picturesque scene that probably would have made for some amazing drone shots. Unfortunately, I have a tendency to focus more on moving forward than on stopping and taking in the moment. When will I learn? The amazing gravel roads just continued on with the occasional touch of asphalt in between. I was running a bit low on fuel and wasn't sure if I would make it to Vila de Rei before needing to fill up. There weren't too many gas stations around, so I ended up taking a bit of a detour to a nearby village to get some fuel. I was getting close to Vila de Rei and the end of the day. There would be a bit of asphalt as I approached the town, but there were still some really nice gravel roads left to enjoy before that. I hadn't had contact with the group riders for a few hours, but judging by these tracks here, it looked like they were ahead of me. So that was the final bit of gravel road for the first day in Portugal. A long day had passed, and I was really looking forward to a long shower and a nice dinner. The hotel I had booked was quite nice, newly refurbished, and with practically no other guests as it was still off the tourist season in Portugal. During the summer, however, this place actually sees quite a lot of tourists. I was invited to join the group for dinner at a restaurant just around the corner from my hotel. Since the hotel had just reopened after the refurbishment, not everything was quite in order yet. Around 2 o'clock in the morning, the fire alarm went off. There was no night watch, no signs of fire, and just one other couple staying there. I managed to communicate with them using my somewhat poor German. About 30 to 40 minutes later, the police and a representative from the hotel arrived and managed to shut off the alarm so we could go back to bed. Unfortunately, after about an hour, the alarm went off again. So let's just say sleep on my first night of the trip was a bit limited. But anyway, this was the end of my first day on the bike in Portugal. It turned out to be a rather long video, but there was just too much I wanted to include. Hopefully you've enjoyed it, and my hope is that the video from day 2 will be ready before too long. Goodbye for now.